Шановні колеги, ми
Dear colleagues, we continue our working day, and now the floor is given to the representative of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine on ATO-related issues, Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Now the information about the events that happened in the ATO area during last 24 hours and about training in Ukrainian armed forces. In Lugansk area, it was rather calm. The enemy delivered 3 shellings of our positions in the region of front line and Ukrainian and Russia state border and Popasnyansky region. At that, the occupants used only small arms. The Donetsk area. Yesterday, the enemy's activity was higher in the part of the front line of Avdiivka-Opytna. In the morning, the occupants delivered a number of mortar shelling in Avdiivka, Shakhta-Butovka positions, and Opytna. Thus, the enemy wanted to hide its real intentions. They wanted our troops to withdraw from the positions near Avdiivka. The commanders of Russian occupation forces had several military groups of hundreds of militants, detachments, and artillery batteries, and they used also air drones. And they had some artillery preparations, and they used 82mm mortars, 152mm cannons, and they tried to assault our positions. And to repel the enemy, reinforcement was brought by our side, and the military clash ended in our favor. The enemy sustained losses and withdrew. And after this failed attack, the enemy continued massive shellings of our positions with the use of heavy weapons. The overall number of mortar mines and artillery shells launched by the militants in the Donetsk area is above 300. The data of military intelligence shows that the militants sustained heavy losses, but they didn't cancel their aggressive activities. And they brought to Yasenovata several Grad systems. And they failed in Avdiivka area. The militants also committed one more military crime. They shelled with heavy weapons residential quarters of Makiivka, that is under control of the militants. The shelling was from Mineralna, Yakovlevka, and Yasenovata town, and thus the militants turned the barrels of their weaponry from west to east and started to shell civilian facilities. This action of the militants was with the aim to discredit armed forces of Ukraine and to intimidate civilians and to hide systemic violations of the Minsk agreements by the militants. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Donetsk area, there were 1 military clash, 16 shellings of our positions, including 14 with the use of heavy weapons. In Mariupol area, the situation remains difficult. Military actions are along the front line, but the majority of cases of opening fire by the militants was Mariinka and Shirokina. The enemy continues to use heavy weapons, and these are mostly mortars. The militants launched more than 200 mines at the positions of Ukrainian forces. And also the enemy used barrel artillery, armored vehicles, and snipers. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in Mariupol area, there were 34 enemy shellings, half of which with the use of heavy weapons. During the last 24 hours, in the result of the military actions, 1 Ukrainian serviceman was killed and 6 were wounded. We express condolences to the relatives of the servicemen who died. Yesterday's aggressive actions were costly to the militants, confirmed losses of the enemy. These are 7 killed and 17 wounded. Lion's share of these losses was in so-called 10th Regiment and detached assault brigade of 1st Army Corps of Russian occupation forces that attacked the Avdiivka production area but sustained fiasco. From Russia, they brought reinforcements for the militants. To Kharkiv, They brought 2 railway cars with winter clothes, 2 with ammunition, 2 with spare parts to military equipment. Also, because the militants actively use heavy weapons in Mariupol area, they expect the delivery of new batch of ammunition to Novoazovsk. In Selidovo and Donichina, the police officers detained a militant. The resident of the adjacent village, starting June to October 2014, served at the checkpoint of the militants, and in the course of duty he was wounded, and after recovery he believed that his life is under threat, and he decided to leave the militants and to return home. And these days our law enforcers found him. In addition, a former militant used the program of SBU that is called They Wait For You Back Home. In summer 2014, the resident of Odeshina went to occupied Crimea in order to undergo special military training at the marine base of the Armed Forces of Russia. And after completion of the training, he joined DPR militants, where he served at checkpoints. And he spent several months among the militants, and he saw illegal actions of Russian peace proponents, and he fled. This man didn't take part in the military actions and repressions against civilians. That's why he can be released from criminal responsibility. In Kryvyi Rih, SBU found a cache of ammunition. Law enforcers confiscated 7 grenades F1 with fuses, grenade launcher RPG-26, 3 grenades OG-25, 7 TNT blocks, 200 grams each, and 360 cartridges of 5.45 millimeters of caliber. In Zaporizhzhia Oblast, in one of the military units of the National Guard, there was some tactic and special training. The aim of the training was to improve practical skills of the commanders of the military units and commanders of the detachments. The training was the verification of commanders concerning organization of military and tasks, and forming moral and psychological and battle qualities, the commanders in the course of training displayed readiness to command in and carry out tasks in case the situation deteriorates. The Office of Civil and Military Cooperation Group provided some parcels from children to the defenders of Stanitsa Luganska, and the medicines and the warm clothes will be used by servicemen, and the servicemen placed the pictures and the paintings of children. They put it on walls and in the cabins of their military vehicles. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Хватська новина Донбасу. I need clarification. Bombardment. There was a provocative shooting on the part of the militants to discredit the armed forces of Ukraine, which after their failure during their attack of Avdiivka, right? Yes. So the major objective was to discredit the Ukrainian armed forces. Exactly. If there are no more questions, thank you, Kennel. Thanks a lot. Our next briefing will take place at 1300.